Hey, it's LT with Bands and Clubs of the Triangle in 2026 and ncbandsandclubs.com. One of our features, one of the things that I have on mission in this year, 26, is to honor and pay tribute to some of the great tribute bands. Pay tribute to one of the tribute bands in the Triangle. We have some great ones that are right here in Raleigh or in the Triangle, in a big Triangle. But they've got some roots here, or maybe some of the members are here. And we start off with one of my favorites. Again, hope to do a few of these this year. They really have taken off. Maybe you can help me on the year if we know that, but really popular in the last couple of years, and maybe heyday and maybe you know when that heyday is, but I claim they still draw big crowds and people are really into them right now for whatever reason. And I'm so honored that we start with one of my favorites, and we're not with David Grohl. We're with Link Butler, who is the lead voice and singer of Joe Hero, of course, the Foo Fighters tribute. And how blessed we are to have them out of Raleigh and in this area as band members and of my 15 years with bands and clubs, but a number of shows and always enjoy. And we've worked together on a couple of occasions just for some marketing and some extra promotion and push around that. But this is appropriate, 2026. Well, we're backing up for a moment because we're again would say congratulations. 25, the band celebrated the 20th anniversary. Do you
That's
feel
right.
like it's Link? Welcome. Do you feel like it's been 20 years?
Well, thanks for having me. It's funny. It doesn't. We when we started talking and planning for the upcoming show, the 20-year anniversary show, it just seemed like, has it really been that long? We just were questioning ourselves, but it's been a fun ride the whole way.
Right. Well, look at my pictures 20 years ago. Yours too. I dove into some social media and y'all did some neat sharing last year, 25, for the anniversary. I
Yeah.
found a few pictures or saw some. You've changed a little. You've changed a
Yeah,
little just like me, a little bit more gray.
a little
But
bit, just a little bit.
I don't know, a little less hair. Was that true? Could that be
Yeah.
true? But no, I enjoyed the pictures, and y'all did some good sharing last year, and just things like that. So, but no, yeah, either it feels like it's 20 years or maybe not. So it's gone by quickly, maybe, and all the great shows. Do you know how many shows Joe Hero has done that you did last year, or do you speak in terms of the 20 years? Do you know?
Yeah, I can't tell you the number of shows for the whole 20-year career period. We are usually because we're family guys, so we have other obligations. So we're usually playing out maybe twice a month throughout the year, sometimes more, sometimes less, just depending on what's going on or what we've got going on with our families and other commitments. But this year looks like it's shaping up to be a busy one. So
Yes, yes, yes. Going back to the beginning, I learned a little in social media and had done some of those posts, but you didn't start off as a tribute band, and I'm wondering about that progression and change. But originally, the band, or describe that to us, or
yeah, so we started as a three-piece. Scott Hardesty, our drummer, Ryan Terrell, our bass player, and I playing original music. And we wrote a lot of songs. That was, of course, 20 years ago. And we did two CDs. We did Heroes Welcome in 2007, and then a small EP called the Vandermint Sessions later. And toward the end of that run of us playing original music, we started covering Monkey Wrench by the Foo Fighters, and it always went over well. And I think it was Scott who actually floated the idea. What do you think about maybe doing a whole Foo Fighters set? And that sort of kicked us off in 2011. We did our first show where we did all Foo Fighters at the Poorhouse, I believe it was, and
okay, right?
that was a lot of fun. It went over really well. We played with I think a Weezer tribute as well that night. So it was a fun night, good crowd. And, after that, we thought, well, maybe we're onto something here. And then later that year, Daniel Miles joined the band playing lead guitar, and kind of the rest is history.
Yes. Now, in the original scene, or help me in the triangle, you probably have some awareness, but I can name five, six, seven strong venues, small bars, and so forth that really cater to that. But can you make a comment where you're drawing and early on big crowds? That's still a hard niche, and gosh, it's
Yeah.
such a discipline. And I understand this. All the covers had to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
All the
that's right.
covers, well, they were originals at some point, but was any of that part of the transition, or were y'all filling bars back then, or it's
Yeah,
it's still a struggle. It's a struggle for originals and covers, but I think you get me.
sure. No, I
So
hear you.
some of the original artists they need more attention, but yet those are not the songs that are planted as of yet in our
Yeah.
memory. Is there any comments about that in your years or the
Yeah.
transition?
So, I mean, writing the songs was very rewarding, creating that music together. But in those days, early on, especially, it was pretty inconsistent. Like we might have a good night one night and a not so good night the next night. And sometimes I joke about it by saying, we had a strong following amongst bartenders and sound engineers. They were
Yeah.
at every show and they always stayed at the end. But it was pretty inconsistent. And of course, as any musician, when you're writing your own music, that can be a little frustrating. And I think that was in part why Scott had the idea of maybe looking at the tribute scene because we had been familiar with some other bands that were doing really well um, in that scene. But yeah, I think we enjoyed our time writing the music and certainly listened to those songs very fondly sometimes. But at the same time, it was a bit of a frustrating time because if you played 10 people one night, it's a lot of work to prep and carry
Yes,
your gear
yes,
out, set up, tear
yes,
down, and all that. So.
yes. Now,
Uh,
Scott or you or whoever in that mix, have y'all dabbled still in some writing, or that was a phase?
Yeah, that was a phase. I mean, I haven't really sat down to really do any songwriting recently, and most of it's like learning the new material. We're trying to refresh the set list or add something to the set list. So there's a lot of that focus, but yeah, not really a lot of songwriting going on these days.
Now that leads to the question, and I think you're the first in terms of tributes in front of me to have this conversation and to ask this question. But gosh, all I've been doing in the last 15 years promoting local music, but I see set list and I see the same or some fave bands all throughout the 15 years. I flip it. I'm out here enjoying it, but me up on the stage, I'm thinking, okay, I'm singing. A lot of them, it's the same set list. Maybe they're trying to mix it up. Does
Yeah,
that get old? And now, if you're a tribute, how do you handle that? How do you manage it? Gosh, you got to have love for the Foo Fighters,
yeah.
but uh, is that a fair question? Does
No, it is. It's a totally fair question, and I can only imagine what it must be like if you are Dave Grohl and you're singing "My Hero" for the millionth time, and you
yeah,
know, um,
that's where I'm going, but
there's
gosh,
yeah,
they are so good, and my favorite artists are so good. And this is what they do. They
yeah,
sing some of the
yeah.
similar songs every, yeah.
Well, Scott usually takes the first shot at set lists, and he tracks pretty well. Like the last time we were at a particular venue, he has that set list, takes a look, see what we did that night. And then the songs where we feel like we can mix it up and throw some new things in, we will. But when you're doing the Foo Fighters set, there are things people absolutely are expecting to hear. So those are kind of the core of the set, and then we build in more of the deeper cuts around that. Try to shake it up a little bit, maybe change the order a little bit. And then of course he'll send the set list out, and we all weigh in on them, and if we think there are changes. But certainly there's some songs that you never get tired of playing, like All My Life, for example. I never get tired of playing that song, even
Right,
though it's
right,
really hard to
right,
do.
right,
But then some of the deeper cuts, once you've done them quite a bit, you're like, well, maybe it's time to think about maybe digging up a different deep cut and
right,
replacing that one for a while and
right.
that sort of thing. So
And this is where it's fair to bring out, and I think this is true, and Joe Hero is a good example of this. I think you'll take off on this question a little bit, but doesn't a show become the songs, but doesn't it? I think I see it on stage, Joe Hero. It becomes the interaction
yeah,
between you and the fans, somewhat. But gosh, you get blinded by these lights and you don't know where you're looking. But
yeah,
the interaction between bandmates,
yeah,
um, that's well, gosh, I know one or two bands. I think their movements are the same they did last Saturday night as this Saturday night. That
yeah,
they are that glued to it. But
yeah.
that interaction I claim is probably a little bit different. It's your interaction between each other. That helps, doesn't I assume that that helps, Link.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think if folks are there seeing us have a good time with each other and interacting with each other, then I think they feed off of that energy. Sometimes it depends on the venue. Like if you're in a smaller bar where you don't have a lot of room to move around, you have to kind of organically figure out how do we make that interaction work.
Yes.
Playing at bigger venues, there's some things that we typically do on certain songs, like my interaction with Ryan on certain songs and my interaction with Daniel on certain songs. And if we're in a place like the Lincoln Theater or the Ritz, I love to be able to get up and climb up on that drum riser behind Scott sometimes and just because I never get to watch him as much. He's always watching us because he's
Right.
behind us.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's a lot of fun to interact with him in that way, but also to actually just get a chance to watch him do what he does, which is really
Right.
cool.
And did you say 20 years ago in the start that even at the originals the name was Joe Hero? Or was
Yeah,
there ever another name? Or maybe you've had other band experience also, but yes.
yeah. Well, the three of us were in a different band before Joe Hero called Asbury Lane, with a
Okay.
few other folks. My wife included was in the band, and a
Oh,
couple of other
wow.
friends from college.
Wow.
Now, when we formed Joe Hero, we've kept that name. We did talk about the idea of, well, should we change the name up when we started doing exclusively Foo Fighters? But we felt like with Hero in the name and the My Hero connection, that probably would be okay, and it's worked out.
Link, who are your influences growing up, or some that you
Sure.
still enjoy as having a part in your background, your structure, and your love of music? But who are some of your influences?
Yeah. Well, the guy who absolutely made me want to pick up guitar and learn it was Ace Frehley, and I'm actually representing him right here in my little hoodie.
Oh, yes, yes.
Ace was and Kiss, huge fan of Kiss. Scott as well. Peter Criss was the whole reason he picked up drumsticks. So they're one. Ty Tabor, who plays lead guitar for King's X. They're not as well known, but he's always been a favorite of mine. And then Alex Lifeson of Rush, is a guy I've always admired very much from a guitar playing standpoint. So yeah, those are the kind of guys that I gravitate toward and love just trying to analyze and pick apart what they do. But yeah, Ace was the player that just seeing him up there, he just looked like a god, with the makeup and the outfits and the flame guitar,
Yes, yes.
guitar sheet and the fireworks. He was the guy that was like, man, I would love to learn to play guitar just so I could be like Ace Frehley.
Yes. Awesome, awesome. I listened to a solo. He was just him, Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the voice and a little bit of the growl, or however I best describe it. And I don't have all the terms, but I guess I was listening to him as that solo song, and I apologize, I can't remember what it was, but
Mhm.
then I was thinking of you, Link, and I was really like, well, him solo doesn't necessarily, I can't think that that totally is like Link, or it sounds
Mhm.
a little bit different doing it solo versus with the group, is where I was going with that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I'm still wondering how much an effort, or how much do you have to employ in the effort to pull it off as the great job that you do? And I think you're blessed, some of it natural, but how do you describe that? Is it some effort through the years, or you've gotten better at it, and would claim you have gotten better at it?
Well, thank you. It's very kind. My voice has always been something I've been a little self-conscious about. Even when we were recording original music, hearing the playbacks, you're always like, oh, is that what I sound like? And I think that's true for a lot of musicians and vocalists when they hear themselves, but it has been a lot of work. And, certainly you have to be open to feedback. When we're rehearsing and when we're learning new songs, the guys are really great about giving constructive feedback and, hey, try this, or you think about that. But then a lot of listening too, just really trying to emulate what Dave does, which is incredibly difficult. And, I've often had times where we do kind of our longer sets. The next day I can barely talk and I just sound like I've got a cold because my voice is
Right,
just shot.
right.
But yeah, so it's been a lot of work. But you have to be open to listening and getting feedback and just, hey, am I doing this right? Does this sound good? And the guys are always great about being honest, but doing it in a kind way. So,
Now, I'm aware of the regiment by some lead vocals pre-show or at break time. Ross Miller of Crush might come to mind, but he's not all this. But gosh, warm washcloths on the neck,
yeah,
drinking
yeah.
of honey. You can help me, but some of those are somewhat normal in that realm. Do you have some of those tricks?
No, I don't have any tricks, but my regiments usually starts earlier in the week before a show with just hydrating, making sure that I'm well hydrated going into the night. And usually I have a much easier time getting through the set when I've done that and been very deliberate about that. And sometimes where I'm like in the middle of the set and I haven't done that as well, you can kind of tell, and I have to kind of push through it until I get nice and warmed up. But yeah, no quirky, nothing quirky.
Right.
Just drinking water.
Right, right. You've already answered this one or shared because I was wondering the day after because we're not getting younger. We're not getting younger. I don't know what's going on here, but
Yeah,
I'm wondering about the regiment or how you feel the next day. And I think you shared some of that next
yeah.
day, maybe a little bit slower or just
No,
uh,
that's
I,
right.
I don't know it. I'm a nap person, an extra nap the next day
Yeah,
or whatever, but is that true, or it's a tough
yeah.
3 hours of anything or the multiple sets? It wears on you, and it may be a little different now than when we were 30 years old.
That's exactly right. The older you get, and especially in those nights when we're setting up our own PA. So everybody pitches in, loading in not just our own individual gear, but the whole PA system. And then at the end of the night, everybody pitches in, tearing it down and loading it out. So the next day is, I mean, it's almost like I've been through a workout, and my muscles are sore. I usually have a little bit of a headache. We call it gig hangover.
Yeah.
Um, and so I usually spend a lot of time just lazing around on the couch, and just trying to recover. If there's football on, I'll watch football. Sometimes play a little Xbox or PlayStation, but try to just generally take it easy and rehydrate because I sweat profusely when I perform. So
Yes, yes. Understand. All that sounds like the next day regiment. How about this? Or 20 years of it might not be right now, but you maybe have something to mention or a story. But have you had band members, or do you used to any pre-show rituals or post-show? Now, I had a time in my life even promoting, and you'd come home, it'd be 2:30 in the morning, or what, maybe hopefully 1:30. But we do a whole breakfast routine. We scrambled
okay,
eggs, sausage, biscuits, and every once in a while we still do that. Or she goes to sleep and I cook me a breakfast for two or something. But we don't do the Waffle House very often. But I've enjoyed that through the years. But any rituals pre and post show?
yeah. The pre-show is usually, I mean, we're a pretty easy sound check, and so we usually try to figure out is there a time we can go get food together, if we can, and just enjoy some time as not focused on the music um, and just catch up on life and things of that nature. We have a few spots that we go to pretty regularly when we're in certain venues. Um, Post show, most of the time, unless we're playing at one of the bigger venues, it's tearing down and packing up, and everybody's usually pretty exhausted. So we're a little boring. We just usually pack up and head home. I think is the best thing to say.
I understand. I think I had the question on here again. I think you're describing it, but your bandmates and who you have, y'all are pretty close.
Yeah.
I'm seeing pictures you just described, maybe some favorite places. Hey, if we're playing at the Lincoln, we've
Mhm.
enjoyed dinner here. That's what you're describing. That's nice. And again, annual, whether it's around Christmas or at the end of
Yep.
the year. I think I saw pictures. Y'all
That's
try to
right.
get together at the holidays. I don't know if you mix in girlfriends, wives, or whatever, but that happens. Is it?
Yeah, so we do an annual Christmas dinner where it's just the four of us, and it's usually that's kind of a period where we take some time off from playing because family schedules are just crazy around the holidays. But yeah, we're very close. We do genuinely enjoy one another, and Scott Ryan and I met in college at Appalachian State, and but even though Daniel didn't join the band till 2011, I mean, it's been 15 years, and getting to know him,
Right.
watching his kids grow up. We watched each other's kids grow up, graduate college. Scott's son just got married recently, and so there's just a lot of good memories about being together and enjoying one another and just being able to do this for 20 years, and not hate each other at the end of it. So we're going to keep going strong because we
Now,
love
what's
doing
the
it. We love
deal?
being
Wives aren't involved. Wives aren't invited to dinner out, or
together.
we don't mix them in. What?
Well, that's just been sort of a holiday tradition, but they do. We all do get together beforehand for dinner and that sort of thing too. So um, yeah, so the wives are
Yes.
definitely included, but the Christmas dinner is just the four of us.
Right, right, right. We've been talking about it, and I've been looking at it more in preparation, but always have paid attention to it. Who does the social media for the band?
Yeah, that's all Scott. He does all of our booking. He does all the negotiation around what we're going to do in
Yeah.
terms of how long we're going to play and how much we're getting paid. And
Right, right.
he does all the socials too. Now we pitch in different ways. I'll do some of the graphics stuff. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why when I introduced the band, I'll say Scott's the hardest working man in the band because not only being the drummer and really just expending a lot of energy, but he does a lot of work behind the scenes too, keeping the social media up to date, posting the events, publicizing. And of course, we try to then push those things out on our individual Facebook pages and things like that. But yeah, Scott's the social media guy for sure.
Right. In one year, you're going to have be able to pay an extra crew, a road crew, to load in and load out. But no, I've appreciated your description because I've seen it all kinds of different ways. But I think you described it right. I think you're saying that y'all try to get there at a certain time, and you're all involved in the
Yep.
setup and the takedown. Is that right? Or
Yeah, that's correct. Ryan is our sound engineer. He owns all the PA equipment. But when he gets there, we help each other load our instruments and amps and then all the PA system in. And then we all kind of have our roles too. Once stuff is in, Scott's usually focused on his drum set, but I'm usually handling vocal mics and making sure the guitars are mic'd. Daniel usually sets up the lighting, the banners, and things like that. And Ryan is the one setting all the PA and getting everything connected so that we can start plugging in and sound checking. And Scott, once his kit's set up, he'll set up all the mics on the drums. So we all kind of have our roles once it's all loaded in. But then we also share the loadout. We're all
yeah,
wrapping mic cables, we're all packing up cases, and then we're all carrying everything, not just our own stuff, but everything out to the cars and
right, right,
getting it
right.
situated.
Now, Link, I don't know if you just got to work on that, and I've got some female examples as female leads. But if the show starts at 8, they're walking in the door at 7:55.
Yeah,
Somebody else has done all that hard work for the lead, so I don't know
yeah,
if you got to
yeah.
work on that or whatever. But yeah,
No,
that
share and
that
share alike.
yes, yes, that's funny to see sometimes or whatever. We're waiting on such and such or
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Waiting on
but
the
yes.
usually the lead singers, right?
Yes. Let me see. Local bands, I think you're in the 20 years, but maybe you get out here and there. You got any shout outs for just any local bands you enjoy? Or again, maybe the description. LT, we're always playing. I don't get
Yeah,
out. I know the bands through bands and clubs. You tell me. But no, I
yeah.
think it's an interest in your life. But you got any shout outs or
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Shoot to Thrill, big time fans of them. They do it as good or better than anybody out there. Love watching them perform. We just did a show at the Ritz with Deep Six, the Pearl Jam tribute. They're excellent. They're just great, great bunch of guys. Undertow, Tool tribute that we've played with a number of times. Just also fantastic band. Um, Another band that's not really active right now, but Adhesive, they were Stone Temple Pilots tribute. We've done shows with them for years, and
right?
they've had a few lineup changes, but yeah, those are the guys that I really enjoy watching them play. I never get tired of seeing them play. But yeah, I think Shoot to Thrill is one of those bands that you just got to see them and to believe the energy, the proficiency, just how great they sound. I mean, just they're just a lot of fun. And but anyway, those three bands are the ones that come top to mind.
Yeah. And you found a space in this hybrid of not only Foo Fighters, but having a 90s grunge
Yeah.
set. I assume that's just variety, or maybe it's some of our discussion that we've had here earlier today or tonight. But yeah, that's been a good groove, right? Mixing it up a little.
Yeah, it's nice because the way we usually format those nights where we're doing multiple sets is we'll usually start with the Foo Fighter set, do all of that, take a little break, and then do the 90s set, which is a nice mix of rock and grunge, anything from, oh, there's Ollie, my dog has joined us. Um, and anything from, like, of course, Nirvana to Pearl Jam, Bush, bands like all the ones that people love from that time. And folks really seem to dig it. I mean, they just love singing along to the songs and hearing those songs. And it adds a nice little bit of variety. And we're able to mix that set up a little bit more than the Foo Fighter set.
Yeah.
So,
Link, I think I warned you before we got set up. Sometimes I don't do so good at looking at the clock on our Zoom setup, but I think we got a couple more minutes. But
sure.
2026, something in store, or have you got a show that in the weeks or months, or something you want to highlight? Any changes, or are you going to be replaced by a midget, or I don't know. But I want to give you that opportunity for 2026. I'm sure it's a great year, a busy calendar. Gosh, we just had some weather. I think one of your venues of repetition, of repeating often, Bombshell Beer Company.
Bombshells. Yep.
I'm not sure what I
Yeah.
was saying there, but but yeah, you're there a lot, and maybe the weather, but you're probably going to be there again or making up that show or whatever. You do a lot of anniversaries for them, I think.
Yeah. We usually play their annual anniversary celebration. But unfortunately, the snow got in the way this time. So we had to cancel that. We are going to be there over the summer. We're actually taking our Grunge Fest show, which is the one we did at the Ritz, which was a
Yes,
huge show. And we're doing it some other places like the State Theater in Greenville coming up. Let's see, I'm looking at our schedule on February 28th.
right.
We're working now to try and do one in Charlotte as well. We do have one scheduled in at Ziggy's in Greensboro, so those are some big shows. And then just some really great places like Real McCoy's, Backyard Bar, Raleigh Brewing, Glass Jug Beer Lab. We've got some shows scheduled out, but it's really starting to shape up like a full calendar this year already, which is a good problem to have, that folks still want to hear us and book us. And
And
um,
It's Scott's hard work, the band's hard work. But yeah, you've had some Triad in Charlotte, the blessing of some
yep,
travel throughout our great state. There's a great scene
yep,
that way. Charlotte, gosh, massive or whatever.
yep,
Triad too. But no, I've seen that in the couple of years gone by. But here it is again. You've got a
yep.
couple of shows out that way. Is Charlotte fun to play, or one of those venues?
Yeah, Charlotte is a cool town. There's around where Amos is South End, which has been there for years.
Yes.
I think the very first time we played there, it was kind of literally the only thing that was out in that part of Charlotte, and now it's just surrounded by a lot of development, a lot of people who are usually out and about. So usually when we go there, we have pretty good turnout, and we're looking at maybe doing some different venues out that way too.
All right, let me see what I can do on the clock and some closure. But Link, I want to thank you so much for being with us, Bands and Clubs of the Triangle, ncbandsandclubs.com. But thank you for starting our year off and into 26, so honoring some tribute bands. And why not start with Joe Hero? But I enjoy y'all so much, enjoy the
Thank
friendships,
you.
maybe even more, but know a number of you, all of you, I think. And y'all are so kind to us and reaching out and spending some few times with us and some chit chat before
Yep.
and post shows. So, but thank you, and I'm
Thank you.
honored. I'm honored that you could take this time. And again, hats off to 20 years, 21
Thank you.
now, and let's have a great 26.
Yeah, we were looking forward to it. Looking forward to see you out there. And LT, just want to say a big thank you to you guys for all you do uh, for the local music scene. It's much appreciated. So big thank you to you as well.
We enjoy it. Thank you so much again. ncbandsandclubs.com, and we'll talk at you later. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.